Since the dawn of its existence, humanity has looked to the sky and asked that ancient question, are we alone in this vast universe? It is a question where the answer is terrifying either way. Yet human curiosity and the desire for discovery have always outweighed our fear. From the moment we seized our first opportunity, we have been staring long and hard into the depths of the cosmos, hoping to find life other than our own. From Galileo's first telescope to the first orbital satellites launched, from our most powerful cosmic eye, the James Webb Telescope, to the FAST station in China with its half-kilometer diameter, we are using every resource at our disposal to search for a sign from that deep darkness, a single light to show us we are not alone. However, there is a famous saying, if you gaze long enough into the darkness, eventually the darkness will gaze back into you. And who knows, perhaps a foreign visitor arriving in our system under extraordinary circumstances has finally cast that first glance at us from within the dark. Welcome to Secret History. In the year 2025, the extraordinary entry of 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object, into our solar system is not actually humanity's first encounter with the unusual. Our potential first encounter with the eyes inside the darkness actually goes back much further. The year is 1977, a hot August night in Ohio. Astronomer Jerry Emmon, on duty at the Big Ear radio telescope, one of the advanced instruments of its time, is examining hundreds of meters of printouts where the telescope transcribed frequency waves from space. Suddenly, he discovers the presence of an extraordinary radio signal. In a moment of sheer excitement, not knowing what else to write, he instinctively scribbles, "Wow," next to the signal. And thus, one of the greatest mysteries in astronomy enters the records as the wow signal. The signal, lasting exactly 72 seconds, was detected at a frequency of 1,420.4556 megahertz, the hydrogen line. This frequency, emitted by hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe, is considered by radio astronomers to be a universal channel of communication. If an intelligent civilization like ours truly wanted to say hello, they could reveal themselves by specifically using this frequency in our universe, full of infinite static. The signal's bandwidth was an incredibly narrow 10 kilohertz. In other words, rather than a natural occurrence, it resembled a specifically manufactured carrier wave. However, what made the wow signal so mysterious was that it was a one-time event. It was as if someone in the Sagittarius constellation had, with their last remaining power, cast a message in a bottle into the infinite depths of the universe, and we had heard it by pure chance. But by the time the world's most powerful radio telescopes turned their attention to it, the message had already vanished into the void of space, and the signal from the source was silenced forever. Years passed. Hundreds of scientists, from SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, to various national organizations, continued to scan space to find an answer, a crumb of life. Then in 2015, Tabitha Boyajian, analyzing data from NASA's Kepler Space Telescope, discovered an interesting phenomenon. In the Cygnus constellation, 1,470 light-years from Earth, a star codenamed KIC 8462852, now known as Tabby's star, exhibited interesting light fluctuations. Normally, starlight is extremely stable. They may experience strange fluctuations near their death, but this was different. Typically, when a planet passes in front of a star, it dims the emitted light by about 1%. However, at Tabby's star, this dip was around 22% and occurred in a completely irregular manner. This anomaly brought to the scientific world's mind the concept of the Dyson sphere, or Dyson swarm, introduced to our lives by American theoretical physicist Freeman Dyson. These theoretical structures imply that highly advanced civilizations, those reaching Type 2 status, surround their star with billions of power stations to harvest its energy to meet their unimaginable energy needs. Naturally, this dense layer would cause the star's light to fluctuate severely. Tabby's star was observed for years, and the conclusion was reached that the most likely explanation was a dense dust layer caused by the fragmentation of a comet or a large moon around the star. The primary reason for this was that while visible light was decreasing, infrared light was passing through that mysterious layer undiminished. However, the possibility of a Dyson sphere or swarm has not been completely eliminated. According to scientists, even if it is a 5% probability, there could still be a mechanism built by an advanced civilization there. While our telescopes tried to search for a civilization far, far away from our solar system, something unexpected happened in October 2017. While humanity was wondering how we could go into the infinite depths to search for life, a traveler from those depths came right to our doorstep, and suddenly chaos ensued. The only things coming from the cosmos weren't just mysterious signals. Sometimes unexpected celestial bodies take the stage to surprise us. A prime example of this entered the solar system in October 2017. A strange object that we learned was the first interstellar visitor in human history, Anomalies of Oumuamua. This object, entering our lives with a name meaning messenger from afar in Hawaiian, was discovered as it approached the sun and stunned everyone with its extraordinary features. Oumuamua had an unusually long, thin shape, about 400 meters long and 40 meters wide. No known asteroid or comet had such a cigar-like structure. Furthermore, telescope observations showed neither a distinct gas dust tail like a comet nor any chemical traces. Initially classified as an asteroid, Oumuamua was later reclassified as a comet due to a slight deviation detected in its orbit, a mysterious acceleration. This small thrust could be explained by ice warming from the sun, evaporating and pushing the object. However, classic comet symptoms were still absent. This dilemma led to much speculation about Oumuamua's nature, and at that moment, the world met astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who had a successful and wealthy career at Harvard University. Avi Loeb and his colleague Shmuel Bialy proposed an unconventional hypothesis to explain Oumuamua's unconventional features. What if this object is actually a light sail? That is, a spacecraft structured thinly enough to move with the pressure of sunlight. According to Loeb and his team, this could be defunct space debris sent by a distant civilization. For example, a piece of a light sail, or perhaps an active reconnaissance probe. Of course, this was a highly radical claim and naturally led to heated debates in the scientific world. Although Loeb did not speak definitively, he argued that the possibility of it being a foreign spacecraft was worth considering. He suggested that natural scenarios at hand were insufficient to explain the anomaly in Oumuamua. The majority of the scientific community, however, was more cautious. Unlike Avi Loeb, they began to offer more normal explanations for Oumuamua. A team led by Stephen Desch and Alan Jackson from Arizona State University showed through detailed calculations that this mysterious object could actually be a nitrogen iceberg broken off from the icy crust of a Pluto-like planet in another solar system. According to this theory, Oumuamua could be a fragment ejected from a planet's surface as a result of a collision about 500 million years ago. And throughout its journey, it could have been gradually thinned and flattened by cosmic ray erosion. Since it was composed of nitrogen ice, it was calculated that as it approached the sun, it evaporated, providing thrust while leaving no visible trail behind. If you remember, it was a huge event in the media back then, with reports claiming an alien ship had arrived. However, this interestingly structured object, entering our system quietly, continued on its way without invading Earth, leaving our lives just as it had entered. But this time, we are facing a massive mystery, both structurally and behaviorally. The third interstellar object to enter our system, 3I Atlas. On July 1, 2025, the Atlas telescope, located in the Rio Hurtado region of Chile, detected a faint point of light moving in deep space. Initially tagged with the temporary code A11PL3Z by automated software, it was soon understood that this object was no ordinary asteroid. Its orbit and speed were unlike any object we had seen before. When orbital parameters were calculated, astronomers faced a shocking truth. The object's eccentricity was much greater than 1. It was approximately 6.14. In celestial mechanics, objects with an eccentricity between 0 and 1 trace elliptical orbits and are bound to the Sun. Those with an eccentricity equal to 1 follow a parabolic orbit, and those greater than 1 follow a hyperbolic orbit. However, 3I Atlas's eccentricity of 6.14 proved with mathematical certainty that it was not bound to the Sun. It was a visitor coming from infinity and going to infinity. Following Oumuamua and 2I Borisov, it made a fast entry into our lives as the third discovered interstellar object. And when I say fast, I mean incredibly fast. It entered at a massive speed of 68 kilometers per second. However, the object has some interesting anomalies that brought it to the agenda. For instance, in August 2025, the Hubble Space Telescope, tracking the object, detected that as it approached the Sun, it formed a tail not behind or beside it, but in front of it. Normally, as comets approach the Sun, various frozen substances inside them begin to evaporate due to the heat. This creates a dust tail behind the asteroid. That is where the name comet comes from. However, on 3I Atlas, this tail was emerging straight out the front, without drawing any spiral. It was as if a spaceship had engaged reverse thrusters to slow down, deliberately reducing its speed. But as eyes turned to the object, the anomalies began to increase rather than decrease. And once again, Harvard professor Avi Loeb, who built his career on the search for extraterrestrial life, appeared before us. Loeb and his team announced that as 3I Atlas approached the Sun, instead of following a normal gravitational orbit, the object's speed began to increase and deviate. The strange part is that 3I Atlas is thought to be an extremely large object, nearly 10 kilometers in diameter. To accelerate in this manner, it would need to leave a massive dust cloud behind it. However, our asteroid was acting less like a natural satellite and more like an efficiently working technological engine. In fact, precisely like an ion engine, it was charting its course while leaving a trail very small in proportion to its mass. There was a reason for this claim emerging. As 3I Atlas approached the Sun, its color, which should normally be red, began to turn blue. Or rather, the dust it emitted was glowing blue. This is extraordinary for the following reason. Blue luminescence occurs at very high temperatures, like in our advanced engines. Yet Atlas had started glowing like this while still 1.34 units away from the Sun. 1 AU, or astronomical unit, gives us the distance between the Sun and Earth, approximately 150 million kilometers. He makes the calculation based on that. And in addition to all these extraordinary events, Avi Loeb took the stage once again to explain that, according to their orbital calculations, the starting trajectory of Atlas was discovered to be the exact point where the WOW signal came from back in 1977. This statement was the peak of the matter. Years ago, from the very location of the WOW signal, one of human history's most interesting mysteries, an unexplained object had entered our system. It was moving extremely fast, changing its speed and determining its route strangely, despite being massive, and emitting blue glows like an ion engine. It was officially coming full throttle towards us. And just as these anomalies were piling up and eyes were turned to NASA, an unexpected development occurred. The US government was shut down because the budget draft was not approved. And after this shutdown, things happened. When NASA's detailed data was suddenly cut off, a huge information vacuum was created. And as you know, the universe fills vacuums. However, here, unfortunately, that vacuum was dramatically filled by conspiracy theorists. They began sharing AI-generated, so-called telescope images left and right, turning everything into a mess. In early November, people posting on X and Reddit claimed that regular pulses containing the Fibonacci sequence were detected from Atlas at the 1420 MHz frequency. They alleged that when the claimed message was deciphered, it carried a meaning like, observe, prepare, understand, the door waits. In various forums and YouTube channels, many people, basing their content on Avi Loeb's claims and merging the topic with ancient civilizations, started pumping content at you like, the old gods are returning, or the age of enlightenment is coming. I even saw some people filming strange content about 3i Atlas manifestation enlightenment. I honestly have to congratulate them. An event could only be pushed to such an extreme point. Fortunately, the US government reopened on November 12th, and the analyses conducted by institutions began to flow rapidly again. And of course, data from other countries' observation systems began to emerge from within the massive pile of conspiracies. The MeerKAT radio telescope, located in South Africa's Karoo Desert, turned its 64-dish antennas toward 3i Atlas, tracking it with its sharp eyes. The team led by Professor Pisano examined Atlas and, contrary to internet claims, detected absorption lines at the 1665 MHz frequency. This meant the object's thermal expansion was active even at -43 degrees. This explained to us, at least somewhat, the oscillations it made despite being far from the Sun, and it proved that glaciers were melting inside the object. So Atlas was not a silver-coated spacecraft, but a celestial body containing trapped water and slowly releasing it. This slight evaporation also explained the small deviations in the object's orbit, because the same event happened in the exact same way with Oumuamua. As for the reverse dust spray event, it wasn't reverse engine thrust as Avi Loeb claimed. 3i Atlas was leaving very coarse-grained dust, about 100 micrometers in size, in its orbit, while solar radiation pressure pushed fine dust away to form a normal tail. These heavy and large grains remained suspended in the object's orbit because the object was large. From Earth, because we were looking at the object's orbital plane at a specific angle, we saw this heavy dust pile stretching toward the Sun due to the perspective effect. Let's get to the blue color event. This didn't come from a plasma engine, But from the comet's gas-dominant structure, it was determined that the object contained very little fine dust that reflects visible light, that is, red and yellow colors. In contrast, it was understood to emit abundant amounts of cyanogen and diatomic carbon. These gases fluoresce in blue and green colors under sunlight. Since there was little fine dust, the red color couldn't mask this blue gas glow. That's why we saw the object glowing blue. The information that its orbit originated from the Cygnus constellation, where the WOW signal came from, is also not correct. In fact, the probability that it came from the direction of the Hercules constellation seems much stronger. And the sky positions of the two are dramatically different from each other. 3I Atlas is thought to have likely come from the region of our galaxy called the thick disk, meaning the part with old stars, and this can actually explain its high speed. We are talking about a region with stars older than 7 billion years. The debris of planets around a star that has completed its life there may have been scattered into the universe at unimaginable speeds as a result of an explosion. This is an approach that can explain to us why Atlas is so large yet so fast. However, all this doesn't show that it's an unimportant rock. Yes, maybe it's not a spaceship. Maybe your 3I Atlas manifestation, like on YouTube channels, won't open the door to a higher dimension for you. But the existence of such interstellar travelers, and especially the fact that they carry water, is very important for people researching how life might have started on our Earth. Because such asteroids, in their hearts of ice, may have carried the basic building blocks of life from those shattered planets to us billions of years ago. And when they crashed into our world, life may have started in the planet's waters. This Panspermia is actually one of the most probable theories for the source of life on Earth. So in this case, we are constantly looking for aliens in the depths of the universe. But if this theory is proven one day, it will ultimately turn out that the real aliens on this Earth are us. Thank you all for watching the video. In such matters, always proceed with logic and science first, not with fantasies in forums or AI visuals. Rest assured, governments are looking for aliens more than any of us. Millions of dollars are spent every year just for these observations. So, if such a situation truly happens, we will hear these reports from hundreds of people, not just from Avi Loeb, who calls aliens have arrived at every interstellar object appearing in space and is wrong every time. Don't forget to like the video and leave a comment. See you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.